President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela is proving to the world that his words have weight. On numerous occasions, the Bolivarian head of state publicly threatened to annex Essequibo and add it to his country's map as a brand new state. You are watching The Final Takeaway. Thank you for joining us. We encourage you to subscribe to keep up to date every single time we drop a new video on our channel. Shout out to the 44 new subscribers who joined within the last few days. Of course, we cherish all of you wherever you are visiting from. Acting on his threats, Maduro's government recently made a special law to cement plans to grab the oil-rich region. And this isn't just a strip of land. We're talking approximately 160,000 square kilometers of land mass that makes up 2/3 of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. The special law is called the Organic Law for the Defence of Guayana Esequiba, which means Essequibo, Guyana in Spanish. The country's National Assembly approved the law last week. The decision is as perplexing to you as it is to many who can't seem to wrap their heads around why Maduro is persistent in his efforts to go ahead with this brazen land grab instead of focusing on the social and economic crises that resulted in millions of Venezuelans now living in poverty and has driven millions of people to migrate to the United States from Venezuela. And instead of directing his energy to facilitating free and fair elections this year in Venezuela, Maduro is, for whatever reasons, fixated on conquering Essequibo. There is also an irony you can't afford to overlook. The stark rise in poverty under the Maduro regime has driven thousands of Venezuelans to seek refuge in Guyana. You heard right. Guyana, the very country that has maintained rights over Essequibo since 1899 under the United Nations, the very country Maduro is planning to annex a part of its territory. Today, we'll take a closer look at the organic law and then what it potentially means for Guyana and Guyanese. The organic law is contained in a legal document that has 39 articles. The Orinoco Tribune outlines the key things to remember. In this document, Venezuela makes the following things clear, and we've summarized the list of key elements in our own words. Under the law, number 1, Venezuela maintains that the 1899 arbitration award that gave Essequibo to Guyana is invalid. Number 2, the country is only willing to settle the territorial dispute with Guyana under the Geneva Agreement of 1966. Venezuela has always maintained that the Geneva Agreement of 1966 is the only valid document that they will respect, recognize, and honor as being able to solve the dispute with Guyana over Essequibo. Number 3, the organic law, says that Venezuela does not see the International Court of Justice, that's the ICJ, as the proper court to settle the dispute over Essequibo. And in fact, the law is reaffirming Venezuela's position because Venezuela has always said the International Court of Justice has no say in what it does insofar as it relates to the dispute over Essequibo. Number 4, the law establishes Essequibo as the 24th state of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Number 5, the law will allow the formation of a National High Commission for the Defence of Guayana Esequiba. Number 6, it is illegal under the law to display the political map of Venezuela without Essequibo on it. I suppose this particular rule will apply only locally in Venezuela. Venezuelan citizens, number 7, Venezuelan citizens who show support for Guyana regarding Essequibo or show support for corporations, including ExxonMobil, automatically disqualify themselves from running for public office in Venezuela. Number 8, local companies dealing with companies operating in Essequibo or offshore waters in Guyana that are part of the disputed territory will be prevented from getting contracts in Venezuela. Number 9, a special plan will be made for the protection and development of Essequibo. And number 10, there is a plan for a special agency to manage oil, mining, and industrial matters in Essequibo. There are some other elements in the legal document, but these are the 10 that we thought were worthy of mentioning in this broadcast. On the Guyana side of things, the country fares, the new law opens the door for Venezuela to annex Essequibo. Like really, this could really happen now with the introduction of the law. The Commonwealth Secretariat also weighed in on the organic law for the defense of Essequibo. A part of the statement published by the Secretariat on April 6 reads, quote, "This legislation appears to create a new state in Venezuela. The head of state of Venezuela will have the power to elect a governor, and the National Assembly of Venezuela will have legislative functions in this territory. Also, all political maps of Venezuela will now include the, air quote, state of Guyana Esequiba," end quote. Based on details emerging regarding this unprecedented move by Maduro's government, Guyana Esequiba will become a Venezuelan state, and it will officially represent the 24th state of the country. This bold step by the Bolivarian Republic has been called into question both locally and internationally. Why is Venezuela taking this route? Why is Maduro pushing this agenda? And is the country willing to face the potential fallout with other countries and the United Nations? According to a press statement out of Caracas, the law was put in place to fulfill the will of the people of Venezuela who voted in a referendum on December 3rd, 2023 to approve Maduro's quest to annex the territory. In other words, the country can now move ahead with plans to take the territory from Guyana. The press statement by the Bolivarian Republic, shown here, goes on to further justify the making of the law, where it says the purpose is to, quote, "defend and preserve the unquestionable rights of Venezuela over the territory of Guyana Esequiba," end quote. On top of that, the country seems to be saying that it has the right to do this under international law and the 1966 Geneva Agreement. That's not all. The statement apparently accuses oil exploration giant ExxonMobil, the U.S. Southern Command, and the North American Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, of conspiring to take oil and other energy resources from Essequibo, a territory Maduro and his supporters are convinced belongs to their country, a territory they accuse Guyana of illegally occupying. There's also a link below to access the document if you'd like to read more. The statement ends by noting that Venezuela will, quote, "resort to all available means under international law to save its so-called sovereign rights over Essequibo, the territory which is at the heart of the ongoing controversy." And just a reminder for those of you who may not know this, there was a Paris tribunal that decided that Essequibo will be a territory that will belong to the then British Guyana. And when the now cooperative Republic of Guyana became an independent nation in 1966, the country continued to have sovereign rights over Essequibo. That status quo has never changed under international law or legally anywhere since 1899. There's a general view that Maduro's obsession with conquering Essequibo is driven by greed for oil and other wealth-generating resources located within the territory. But how does the organic law impact international law under the United Nations Charter? At the time of compiling this video, plans were on the way for a private meeting on the territorial dispute between the two nations. The meeting is being organized by the United Nations Security Council, the UNSC. The meeting will look at what the UN Security Council says are, quote, threats to international peace and security. Being a member of the UNSC, Guyana was able to request an urgent meeting. Based on media reports, Guyana requested the meeting on April 5, 2024, days after Venezuela's National Assembly approved the contentious organic law. Based on official statement by Guyana's President Irfaan Ali on April 3, 2024, the approval of the law to annex Essequibo violates the December 1, 2023 ruling of the International Court of Justice, that's the ICJ. The ICJ, also called the World Court, had laid out provisional measures to prevent Venezuela from interfering with Guyana's sovereign rights and control of Essequibo. At the time of the ruling on December 1, 2023, Venezuela was already preparing to hold a consultative referendum whereby the voters would come together and vote on whether or not the country should go ahead and make plans to annex Essequibo. Venezuela nevertheless went ahead and held that referendum, holding that it had the right to hold a consultative referendum and basically disregarding the ICJ ruling. But granted, the ICJ did not specifically say that Venezuela should not hold the referendum. It had the opportunity to say that, but I don't believe it was within its powers to say that the country could not hold the referendum. Shortly after, President Maduro and President Ali of Guyana came together in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and they signed a document called the Argy Declaration, where they agreed to maintain the peace. And everyone thought that that was a very good and positive move in the right direction. We're in April, and now we're seeing Maduro's government went ahead and made a law to move ahead with the annexation of Essequibo. President Ali predicts that, quote, Venezuela's next move would be to implement its plans for the seizure of our sovereign territory, end quote. This would go against the ICJ's ruling if the country isn't barred from going ahead with its plans, Ali says. The President of Guyana wants to remind Venezuela and the United Nations that making plans to annex Essequibo is a breach of international law under the United Nations Charter. He also noted Maduro's latest stunt goes against the Argy Declaration, which was signed by himself and President Maduro in December of 2023. As I just mentioned, the two presidents essentially agreed to not do anything that would threaten the peace and stability of the two nations and the wider Latin American and Caribbean regions. There is a bit of a catch here though, guys. The Argy Declaration is not a legally binding document in international law. However, while countries can get together and sign declarations, there is a caveat. In this case, or in general, when when they sign these declarations, they're doing so supposedly in good faith. And these declarations, such as the Argy Declaration, create a trust and expectation that the parties, the two nations, would show integrity and honor their word. But there's no legal responsibility to say you can't break your word, you can't go against the declaration. And this is what happened here. What Maduro will do next is anyone's guess. We plan to keep you updated with new developments. Remember to subscribe to stay up to date. That's it for now. On the final takeaway, we will see you next time.